Emma thought it would be just another evening with her husband. But the place he took her to, and what happened next, will leave you speechless. You won't believe what she had to survive, and who showed up when she needed it most. Watch till the end. This story will shock you. Tell us in the comments where you're watching from, and don't forget to subscribe. Your support means the world. The wheels of Emma's wheelchair left faint trails in the soft dirt as her husband, Daniel, pushed her deeper into the Massachusetts forest. The sun had dipped low, casting long shadows that danced between the trees. Emma shivered slightly, her hands resting tightly in her lap, fingers twitching with unease. "Where exactly are we going?" she asked, trying to sound casual. Daniel didn't look at her. His voice was flat, emotionless. "Somewhere peaceful. Somewhere you won't be a burden anymore." Emma's breath caught. "What?" Daniel didn't answer. He just kept pushing. 12 years ago, this man had been her dream. They met at Northeastern University. She was studying design. He was a business major. She'd spilled her latte on his economics textbook, and the apology turned into hours of conversation. A week later, they were inseparable. Their life had unfolded like a picture-perfect movie. Emma built a successful interior design firm in Boston, and Daniel ran a sleek marketing agency. They moved into a beautifully restored Victorian home in the suburbs and shared their curated lives with the world on Instagram. Couple goals, business partners, and soulmates. But everything changed 3 years into their marriage. A stormy night, a swerving car, a shattered spine. The accident left Emma paralyzed from the waist down. At first, Daniel was the doting husband. He visited every day in the hospital, smiled for pictures, told their friends how brave she was. But behind closed doors, things began to shift. The smiles faded. His touch grew colder. The things he once praised in her, independence, ambition, drive, turned into reminders of what she no longer could be. 6 months after the accident, Daniel persuaded her to sign over control of the business, just for now, so she could focus on recovery. Then came Vanessa. Young, able-bodied, always around. Emma noticed the way they laughed together, how Vanessa started showing up even on weekends, how Daniel stayed later at the office. Intimacy disappeared. Her social life dissolved as friends stopped visiting, uncertain how to navigate her new reality. Her world shrank. She never thought he'd go this far. "Daniel," she said, her voice firm despite her fear, "turn around. This isn't funny." He stopped pushing. They were in a small clearing now, the SUV parked a few yards behind them. Emma could hear the forest around them, wind brushing through the leaves, an owl calling out in the distance. Daniel stepped in front of her, hands in his jacket pockets. He looked at her like a stranger. "I can't do this anymore," he said. Emma's voice cracked. "Can't do what?" "This, you. The business is dying. We're drowning in medical bills. I'm tired of pretending we're okay." Tears welled in her eyes. "So you brought me out here to leave me?" Daniel turned away, walked back to the SUV, and pulled out her small duffel bag. He dropped it beside her wheelchair. "There's a blanket, a flashlight, water." Her breath quickened. "Daniel, please. You can't leave me here. I'll die." He didn't answer, just got back in the SUV. Emma screamed his name, begged, pleaded. The engine roared to life. Headlights flashed between the trees. Then the red glow of taillights. Then nothing. Emma sat in the deepening silence, her body trembling. Her phone's flashlight barely cut through the darkness. She checked her phone. No service. Panic flooded her chest. This wasn't a nightmare. This was real. She grabbed the wheels of her chair and tried to turn herself, but the forest floor was rough. Her wheels caught on a root and nearly flipped. She cried out, her voice echoing into nothingness. "Help!" she screamed. No answer. She didn't know how long she sat there, shivering and crying. It might have been minutes. It might have been an hour. But then there was a sound. A twig snapped somewhere in the darkness. Her breath caught. "Daniel?" she whispered. Silence. Then footsteps. She pointed her flashlight toward the trees, the beam shaky. A figure emerged from the shadows, tall, broad-shouldered, moving with quiet purpose. Her heart pounded. Then the man stepped into the light, and the hood of his jacket fell back. Emma gasped. "Adrian?" It was him. Older, more rugged, with lines around his eyes and a scar along his jaw, but unmistakably Adrian Foster, her college boyfriend, the one she never quite stopped thinking about. "Emma," he said, his voice calm, steady, "are you hurt?" Tears spilled again. "He left me. He really left me." Adrian knelt beside her. "I know. I saw it. You followed us?" He nodded. "I've been in Boston for a few weeks. I drove by your house earlier today. Something felt off. When I saw him loading you into the car, something wasn't right. So I followed. From a distance." Emma couldn't stop shaking. "What do we do?" "I'm going to get you out of here. My truck's parked half a mile back. I'll carry you." "No," she said, embarrassed. "I'm too heavy, and my chair—" "We'll come back for it. Right now, I need to get you somewhere warm." Without another word, Adrian placed a thick blanket around her shoulders, then lifted her into his arms. His grip was firm but gentle, like he'd done this before, because he had. As they moved through the woods, Emma pressed her face into his chest, unable to believe what was happening. "You have a cabin out here?" she asked quietly. "Yes, bought it after I got out of the military. Needed somewhere quiet." They walked in silence, the only sounds their breath and the crunch of leaves. Eventually, the forest opened to a narrow dirt road, and a black pickup truck stood waiting. Adrian opened the passenger door and gently placed her inside. He closed the door, walked around, and slid behind the wheel. "Let's get you safe," he said as the truck rumbled to life. As the headlights lit up the path ahead, Emma stared into the darkness they left behind, where her husband had tried to kill her. She gripped Adrian's hand. "Thank you," she whispered. He didn't look at her, but his fingers tightened around hers. "Not tonight," he said. "He doesn't get to win. Not tonight." Adrian drove in silence, his eyes fixed on the rough, unmarked forest road ahead. Beside him, Emma sat bundled in the thick blanket, her body still trembling from shock and cold. The truck's heater pushed out warm air, but the chill that clung to her bones wasn't from the weather. It was from betrayal. Her mind kept replaying Daniel's words, the look in his eyes as he abandoned her, the sound of the SUV driving away. She turned her head slowly to look at Adrian. "Where are we going?" "My cabin," he said without taking his eyes off the road. "It's about 20 minutes from here. It's isolated, but it has heat, water, first aid, everything you'll need for tonight. You live out here?" "I needed somewhere quiet after I got back from overseas, someplace to think." Emma nodded slowly. That made sense. The Adrian she remembered from college, idealistic, driven, had always seemed like he was carrying something heavy inside. After years of military service, she could only imagine how much heavier that burden had become. When they finally arrived, the cabin appeared like a shadowy outline between the trees. Built from dark wood and stone, it looked sturdy and secluded, the kind of place where someone could disappear from the world. Adrian parked and turned off the engine. "I'll carry you in." Before Emma could protest, he was already out of the truck and opening her door. With gentle precision, he lifted her again, careful to keep the blanket secure around her shoulders. She felt the warmth of his body, the quiet strength in his arms. Inside, the cabin was simple but clean. A wood stove sat in the corner, a couch nearby, a small kitchenette to the side. Everything was in its place. It felt like a space designed not just to survive, but to heal. Adrian lowered her onto the couch, then moved to the stove, expertly building a fire. Within minutes, the room began to warm. The flickering light painted shadows across the walls. "You hungry?" he asked. Yeah, I guess I am. I can make soup, sandwiches, whatever's easy." While he moved around the kitchen, Emma glanced around. The cabin's layout was surprisingly accessible. The doorways were wide. There were grab bars in the hallway. Even the furniture seemed chosen for maneuverability. "You've made this place accessible," she said slowly. "Why?" Adrian hesitated, then turned to face her. "I told you I was injured on my last tour. For a while, the doctors weren't sure if I'd walk again. I had the cabin modified during rehab, just in case." Emma took that in. "But you did recover. Physically, mostly. Others weren't as lucky." He brought her a bowl of steaming soup and set it gently in her lap. She breathed in the warmth, the scent of broth and herbs calming her. "Thank you," she whispered. He sat across from her, watching her carefully. "You don't need to thank me." "I do. You didn't have to follow us. You didn't have to carry me through the woods. You didn't have to bring me here." "I saw something was wrong," Adrian said simply, "and I couldn't look away." They ate in silence for a few minutes. The fire crackled. The world outside faded away. Finally, Emma set her empty bowl aside and met his eyes. "Daniel's going to report me missing. He'll make it sound like I wandered off, that I was confused." Adrian nodded. "Probably, which means we have to be smart." "I need to go to the police," Emma said. "Tell them what happened." "We will, but first we gather evidence. Your word against his isn't enough, especially if he's already spinning a story." Emma frowned. "What kind of evidence?" "Text messages, financial records, anything that shows how he controlled you, and my testimony about what I saw tonight." She nodded slowly. "He changed my passwords after the accident, took control of my business. He said it was temporary, but he never gave anything back." "That's financial abuse," Adrian said, "and it's good for building a case." "I still have an old college email," Emma said, thinking aloud, "and a separate account from my parents. I don't think Daniel knows about it." "That's a start." He stood and retrieved a small laptop from a nearby shelf, placing it on the coffee table. "Tomorrow, we'll see what you can access. For now, you need to rest." Emma looked toward the hallway. "Where's the bedroom?" Adrian hesitated. "Through there. I changed the sheets this morning. You take it. This is your cabin. I can't—" "You can," he said firmly. "You've been through hell. You need proper rest." She stared at him for a moment, then nodded. He brought her a soft t-shirt and a pair of sweatpants. "These will be big, but they're clean." She accepted them. "I'll need help getting to the bathroom. And changing." Adrian gave her a short nod. "Just tell me what you need." With patient dignity, he helped her to the bathroom, waited outside while she used it, then assisted her into the borrowed clothes. His touch was respectful, clinical, not like Daniel's impatient hands, which had grown colder with every passing month. When she was settled in bed, he lingered in the doorway. "If you need anything, water, help, anything at all, just call." "Adrian," she said softly, "one question." "Yeah?" Why did you come back to Boston?" He paused. Unfinished business. And with that, he stepped away, the door closing gently behind him. In the quiet darkness, Emma stared at the ceiling. Her husband had left her to die. Her ex-boyfriend had carried her to safety. The world had turned upside down. But she was still alive, and tomorrow they would begin the fight. Sunlight filtered through the window of the cabin, casting a soft glow across the wooden floor. Emma stirred in the bed, the events of the previous night crashing into her consciousness the moment her eyes opened. The pain in her lower back reminded her of her condition, and the familiar ache in her muscles was sharper than usual, likely from the cold and stress of being left outside in the forest. But this morning, something else filled the space between her ribs. Focus. She was still alive. And she wasn't alone. "Adrian," she called, her voice rough with sleep. Within seconds, he appeared in the doorway, already dressed, a steaming mug of coffee in his hand. "Morning. How are you feeling?" Emma pushed herself upright against the headboard. "Like I've been through a war." Adrian walked over and handed her the coffee. "You have?" She took a sip, letting the warmth seep through her fingers. "What time is it?" "Just after 8. Jack and Rebecca will be here around noon. We've got time to get organized before they arrive." Emma looked at him. "Jack's the investigator you mentioned?" "Yeah, ex-military. Knows how to move quietly and get what's needed. Rebecca's the lawyer. She specializes in domestic abuse and disability rights. She's sharp." Emma took another sip of coffee, then slowly shifted to swing her legs over the side of the bed. Adrian moved to her side immediately, helping her transfer into the wheelchair that now sat clean and dry near the window. "You got my chair?" "Went back while you were sleeping. Brought your purse, too." Her eyes widened. "You went back to the clearing?" "Had to, in case Daniel left anything behind, or came back." Emma opened her purse and found everything still intact: phone, wallet, emergency medication. Relief flooded her chest. She took the medication immediately, knowing how badly her body would protest without it. "I can't thank you enough." Adrian gave a small shake of his head. "You don't need to. I wasn't going to leave you unarmed in this fight." Emma wheeled herself to the main room where a small table had been cleared off. Adrian set up the laptop and pulled up a chair beside her. "Let's start with your old email," he said. "If we can recover access, we might find useful documents, contracts, client communication, anything that proves you were in control of your business." Emma took a deep breath and began typing. Her fingers were slower than they used to be, but she still remembered her college login. To her surprise, it worked. Her inbox opened, revealing hundreds of old emails and archived documents. "Looks like the cloud drive is still active," she said. "There's a folder with my original business license. Some tax forms." Adrian leaned closer, scanning the files. "Perfect. Let's download everything." They worked in silence, Emma navigating her archives while Adrian organized the files into clearly labeled folders. By the time they were done, they had a digital footprint of her role in the company, enough to start building a case. "I also found this," Emma said, opening an old email thread between her and her first major client. "Proof I was a lead designer, the point of contact. Daniel wasn't even CC'd." Adrian nodded approvingly. "Keep it coming." As they compiled evidence, Emma began to recall more details, moments she'd once brushed off, now seen in a darker light. "He changed my passwords after the accident," she said. "At first, it was just my phone. He said I was too tired to manage everything. Then my email, then the banking apps. He claimed it was for my protection." Adrian's expression tightened. Classic control tactic, dressed up as concern. He also canceled lunch plans I had with friends, said I wasn't up for visitors, told people I needed rest when I really needed company. That's isolation, emotional abuse. Emma looked at him. Why didn't I see it? Because you were surviving, and he was good at hiding it. They kept going. Adrian brought her food, toast and scrambled eggs, while she recounted more signs. The disappearance of shared bank statements, the subtle withdrawal of affection, the way he always had a justification ready. By the time the clock hit noon, they had a folder containing dozens of files, screenshots, and personal accounts, all neatly organized by date. A car engine rumbled outside. "They're here," Adrian said, standing. Emma wheeled herself toward the door, nerves fluttering in her stomach. Moments later, Adrian returned, followed by two people. "Emma, this is Jack Mercer," he said, gesturing to a tall, lean man with close-cropped hair and a serious expression. "And this is Rebecca Chen." Rebecca was in her 40s, with sharp eyes and a calm confidence. She gave Emma a firm nod. "Miss Richardson. I've reviewed the outline Adrian sent. First, I want to say I'm sorry for what you've been through, but you've already done more than most survivors do in months. We're going to help you finish it." Jack gave her a respectful look. "I've seen worse situations with less evidence. We'll get what we need." Adrian directed everyone to the table. Jack set up a small scanner and data tool while Rebecca opened her laptop. "We'll need more than your story to bring charges," Rebecca said, "but the documents you've gathered are a strong foundation." "I also have text messages," Emma added, "from Daniel. They changed in tone over time. At first he was sweet, then cold, then dismissive." "Can you show me?" Rebecca asked. Emma handed over her phone. Rebecca scrolled through the messages, her brows furrowing. "This helps," she said, "especially when paired with financial control and witness testimony." Jack looked up. "Any bank accounts Daniel doesn't know about?" Emma nodded. "One, from my parents. I never told him about it." "We can use that to fund immediate needs," Jack said. "I'll set up a secure access route and start tracing Daniel's financial moves." Emma took a shaky breath. "What's next?" Rebecca leaned forward. "We build, piece by piece, document everything you remember, dates, changes in behavior, the moment he took over the business, and we prepare for the legal fight." Emma nodded slowly. "I want my life back." Adrian reached over and rested a hand on her shoulder. "And you will," he said quietly. Emma sat in the passenger seat of Jack's specially equipped SUV, her hands resting on her lap, fingers lightly trembling. The city skyline of Boston loomed ahead, but it wasn't the buildings that made her stomach twist. It was the courthouse waiting among them. Today would mark the beginning of a fight she never wanted, but could no longer avoid. Beside her, Adrian sat quietly, one hand on his knee, the other close enough that their fingers occasionally brushed. It was a silent gesture, but a powerful one. He had carried her from the cold and terror of the forest into safety, and now he would stand beside her through the fire of justice. In the front seat, Rebecca scrolled through her tablet, reviewing the final notes and statements. "Once we arrive, we'll use the private entrance Detective Morales arranged. There will be press outside. Daniel's been playing the role of the grieving, desperate husband, but you won't have to face them. We'll avoid a spectacle." Emma nodded. "Good. I don't want pity or attention. I just want the truth to be heard." "Exactly," Rebecca said. "And you'll have that chance today." Jack was driving with quiet focus, the weight of the situation apparent in the tightness of his jaw. He hadn't spoken much that morning, but he had been up since dawn gathering more data, and his confidence showed in the way he handled the wheel, like a man in full control of what was coming. Emma's phone vibrated in her purse. She pulled it out and froze when she saw the name. Daniel. Adrian glanced at her. "You don't have to answer." "I know," Emma said softly, "but maybe I should." Rebecca looked up from her tablet. "If you're willing, it might give us more evidence. Put it on speaker." Emma swallowed hard and tapped the answer icon. Daniel's voice filled the car, smooth and deceptively calm. "Emma? Emma, is that you?" "It's me," she said, her voice firm despite the nerves in her chest. "Oh, thank God," he breathed. "I've been going out of my mind. Where are you? Are you okay? The police. They've been looking." Emma cut him off. "I'm safe. That's all you need to know." There was a pause. When he spoke again, his tone was softer, laced with that false concern she'd grown to recognize. "Sweetheart, I know things got tense. I know I made mistakes, but you can't just disappear. I came back for you. I really did. And when I saw you were gone, I panicked. I thought maybe—" "I know what you thought," Emma said. "You thought I'd die out there." No, of course not. Emma, listen to yourself. This isn't you. You're confused. You're upset. I understand that, but this is going too far. You need help. You're not thinking clearly." Rebecca raised her eyebrows and nodded silently to Emma. "Keep him talking." "I'm thinking more clearly than I have in months," Emma said coldly. "You abandoned me. You told me I was a burden. You left me in a forest, without my wheelchair, without my medication, without a way to call for help. You're twisting everything," Daniel snapped, the mask slipping. "You were emotional. We argued. You told me to leave you alone. I thought you needed space. When I came back, you were gone. I didn't abandon you." "You planned this," Emma said, her voice steady. "You drained my accounts, stole my business, isolated me from everyone I loved, then tried to get rid of me like trash." "Emma, stop," he growled. "Don't do this. You're ruining both of our lives." "No," she replied, her voice ice. "You ruined mine. I'm just taking it back." She ended the call and dropped the phone into her lap, her breath coming fast. Adrian reached over and gently took her hand. "You did great. That was exactly what we needed." Rebecca nodded. "That call alone proves a lot. The manipulation, the gaslighting, the attempt to rewrite what happened." Jack spoke for the first time since the call. "He just made our case stronger." They drove the rest of the way in silence, the air thick with purpose. When they arrived at the courthouse's side entrance, Detective Morales was waiting. "Everything is set," she said, opening the door. "Search warrants have been executed. We've secured records from Daniel's office, and there's a lot more damning evidence. Emails, financial documents, private messages between him and Vanessa. They were planning this for months." Emma closed her eyes briefly. The weight of that truth settled like a stone in her stomach, but it didn't crush her. It sharpened her. "Let's do this," she said. Inside the building, a witness room had been prepared for her statement. It was quiet and neutral, beige walls, soft lighting, no distractions. A recorder was already running, and a female officer stood by the door to ensure privacy and protocol. Rebecca sat beside her. "Take your time. Tell it in your own words. Start from the beginning, when things began to change." Emma took a deep breath and began. She spoke of the accident, the months of pain and fear and physical rehab, how Daniel had first been supportive, then distant, then cold. She recounted the passwords, the financial control, the emotional withdrawal, the growing silence. She described Vanessa's arrival, the stolen business, the way the house became a prison. Then she told them everything about that night. The drive, the forest, his words, his face, the cold air, the darkness, the silence when he left, the hopelessness, the sound of Adrian's footsteps. When she finished, the room was quiet. Morales nodded once. "Thank you. Your statement matches the evidence we've found so far. Daniel Richardson is in custody, and based on what we've gathered, the DA will press charges for financial fraud, domestic abuse, and attempted murder." "What about Vanessa?" Emma asked. "In custody as well," Morales replied. "She's claiming she didn't know anything, but the messages say otherwise. She'll be facing charges too, at least as an accessory." Emma's fingers dug into the armrests of her wheelchair. "Good." As Morales left to coordinate with the DA's office, Emma stayed seated, staring at the wall. Adrian sat beside her, his expression unreadable. "You okay?" he asked quietly. "I don't know," she replied. "I feel everything, all at once, but also nothing." "That's normal." She turned her head toward him. "I keep thinking about how close it was. If you hadn't followed us—" "But I did," Adrian said firmly. "You're here. You're safe. And he's not going to hurt you again." They sat in silence until Rebecca returned. "We'll be heading back soon," she said. "But first, we'd like you to make a brief recorded statement. Not for court, for the press." Emma's eyes narrowed. "Why?" "Because Daniel's lawyer, Carter Blackwell, is already twisting the narrative. He's framing you as emotionally unstable. We can get ahead of it." "I don't want pity," Emma said. "You won't get pity," Rebecca replied. "You'll get power. Speak the truth and let the world hear it in your words, not his." Emma thought for a long moment. Then she nodded. "Set it up." They recorded the statement in the same room. Emma's voice was calm and firm as she told the world what had happened. The betrayal, the manipulation, the truth about who Daniel really was. When the camera stopped, Rebecca gave a satisfied smile. "That'll do." They returned to the SUV and drove out of the city. As the buildings faded behind them, Emma stared out the window, her thoughts scattered but strong. She wasn't free yet, but she wasn't helpless either. The first steps had been taken, and now the path forward was clear. What Emma went through is more than most could imagine, but she didn't just survive, she stood up and fought back. And this was only the beginning. If this story moved you, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share it with someone who needs to hear it. Drop a comment below. What would you have done in her place?